then. Can you explain to us what your job is and what you do?
My job is an ecologist, and on this particular project I do surveys for wildlife to find out what's here and what's important and what's worth protecting.
So when you were young, when you were at primary school, were you interested in nature? Did you like being outside?
I was never really crazy about nature, but I'd certainly like being outside. And I actually, what I wanted to be at that age was I wanted to be some sort of engineer.
So that was like that was the first job you thought?
Yeah.
And after school, after you'd finished at secondary, did you go down the university route or apprenticeship? What did you do after leaving school?
I went to university and went to study product design engineering, and I did that for maybe 4 months before I realised that actually I couldn't do the maths. It just wasn't for me, so I left.
From a young age, you said you were thinking about being an engineer. That's the route that you've decided for yourself. You get that place at university, you feel like this is leading to your dream job, and then in 4 months, that's not the route that you're going to take. How did you feel then? How did you change track?
It was quite difficult. I didn't really know what to do, is the honest answer. And it took me a while, but I spent some time thinking about exactly who I was and what else I might like to do. And so I ended up going back to university and studying zoology. So studying animals and animal behaviour.
What is the best thing about your job, about being an ecologist? What do you love about your job?
Well, there's probably two things. One thing is about having really interesting experiences with nature, whether it's nesting barn owls or, getting up close and personal to bats, lots of things like that. Wonderful experiences make me smile. And the other thing is that the other part of my job is making sure that I'm keeping them safe, but I'm also putting things up for them to make up for other losses that they're having. So when I have bats that will move into a bat box that I've put up somewhere, or barn owls that have done the same, which they've done on this particular project, that's very satisfying.
And you're thinking about creating a home for bats like we do on a development for 10, 20, 30, 40 years?
Yeah, that's right. And these kind of things, it's a big word, but it's kind of legacy ultimately that I would like to leave this planet in a better shape than I arrived in it. And that is my kind of life goal. And this job helps me to try and do that.
So if there's somebody listening today and they're starting to think, do you know what, ecology could really be for me, I'd really like to go down that route, what would be your top tip? What could they be doing right now if they're in year 9, year 10 or 11 to help them on that pathway?
Spend lots of time outside, get curious, learn about the things that you see, the stuff that's growing in between these bricks, and speak to people who know more than you do. Great things to do are to get out and about and volunteer with people like wildlife trusts or the RSPB, and just get involved.
We do some really good volunteering projects out with the country parks. So you can go out and you can help with the ecology and go and learn about what lives in the ponds, what's living in the forest. When you think about your job role now, how do the subjects you learn at secondary school relate to your job role? Like, what would you say you really need this, this and this?
Biology is a key piece of knowledge that you need. You need to understand how animals relate to each other and how they relate to their environment, so the plants that are around us, and humans as well. But for my job, it goes beyond that, because I then need to look at survey results and data and numbers, and I need to work out what's important and what isn't. And so maths is important, even though it's not my strong point. But I still need to have a good understanding of that, and I need to speak a lot, and I need to try and I need to try and get across complicated things
Yeah.
in some straightforward language, and I also write a lot of reports. So my
We've got English,
yes,
maths,
yep,
biology,
yes,
geography's got to be in there.
geography, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The natural world. So trees don't grow in the air; they don't float around. So a knowledge of soils and different kind of bits of geology and natural processes is all very useful information.
So, final question, Ben. What skills and qualities do you think you need to possess to be an ecologist? What is useful to have? What kind of person does this job role suit?
Well, first of all, you need to be passionate about the natural world, about preserving it and making it a little bit better where you can. You also need to be very patient, and it requires working some strange hours because animals tend to keep strange hours, so you have to keep their hours. So doing bat work can be, quite exhausting as well. But you also need to have quite an attention to detail, because you are having to notice lots of very, very small, subtle things about an environment that can be important.
Ben, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's really nice to hear about your passion. It really comes through that you're doing a job that you love.
Yeah.
And that is so important, isn't it? That you get up in the morning and you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to work today.
Absolutely. But the interesting thing is that it's not what I thought I would be doing. And so there are always different twists and turns, and yeah, the best thing that you can be is just curious.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks, Ben.